Uh, an important part of Mesoamerican history was disease. Now, disease is something that's been with humans all around the world all the time. But when populations get isolated, they're not exposed to all the diseases that plague humanity. When the Spanish arrived in the New World, they brought with them diseases that, although the Aztecs had in some form or fashion, they weren't as, the European versions were much stronger than the Aztec ones. Like, the Aztecs knew about smallpox and syphilis before the Europeans came, but the European versions were lethal. Wiped out a huge chunk of the population. There was a smallpox epidemic in 1519, when Cortez arrived, that destroyed half the population of the Aztec Empire. When the Spanish ruled over Mexico, more diseases swept through the area, but these diseases were actually ones that were native to Mexico. Viral hemorrhagic fevers that, because the Aztecs were weakened by the Spanish, their diet was run down, they were a population under stress, they were more exposed to outbreaks of this particular killer when it did happen. And the symptoms of it are totally different from smallpox. And it happened in conjunction with drought cycles. There'd be a huge drought, and then a wet season, and then everybody would get sick with this hemorrhagic fever and die. Well, an ethnobiologist did some studies on this and found out that this disease was spread by rats that would go to secluded wet areas during the drought, and then when it rained, they would come out into the human population. The fever would jump from the rat to the humans and, well, wipe people out. So yeah, not all the diseases that killed the Native Americans were brought from Europe, but the Europeans certainly left the Native Americans in a stressed situation that left them exposed to these diseases. And as situations improved in Mexico and the rest of Latin America, then they were no longer subject to these diseases. Now, this ethnobiologist also pointed out that there are problems for other secluded populations. As a North American, I'm pretty much secluded from the stuff that goes on here in Mexico, biologically speaking. And this ethnobiologist pointed out that one should really avoid the salsa from street vendors because it has as much bacteria in it as human fecal matter. Okay, so I'm staying away from all the salsa in the street vendors. But the other day I picked up a cup of mangoes that was really delicious, but there was a lot of stagnant water and trash on the ground and who knows what else near this particular vendor. I think that's what gave me my problems. I don't feel so good. One important thing to remember is whenever you're sick, you should drink lots of fluids. Of course, fluids is all I'll ever drink. Cheers.